I saw this news in the Toronto Star, naturally, the Red Star, as I sometimes call it. The headline reads Star columnist Shri Paradkar wins PEN Canada Prize for advancing freedom of expression. Now, I know a little bit about PEN Canada. I've actually been a member of it, I think, for more than a dozen years. Sometimes I might have forgotten to renew, but I try whenever I can. They were one of the very few free speech groups that at least 15 years ago was in favor of the freedom to publish the Danish cartoons of Mohammed. That's what I did back then, and I was pleased to see them at least make a tepid show of support for me, so I joined. Been a member ever since, but I was puzzled by this because I know Shri Paradkar a little bit. I'm not a close follower of hers. I don't know if anyone is. She just talks about racism all the time, and she talks about racism from a reverse racism point of view. That is, she calls any white person racist. I think she truly hates Canada, or at least everything that Canada is. She wants to transform it into something else, which I find very odd for a new immigrant to this country. If you hate Canada so much, why did you come here? So I've never really seen her write anything interesting, and I'm certain I haven't seen her do anything to promote freedom of speech. Sort of the contrary. Let me read from the story, though. Here's what her company says. They're so proud of her. Paradkar won the prize after being nominated by other journalists at the Star. Okay. For her work advocating for and mentoring reporters from minority communities. Okay, I'm all for mentoring reporters from different communities, black, white, red, whatever. What's that got to do with free speech? Freedom of speech is to stop censorship of people, usually government censorship, but sometimes corporate censorship. What's that got to do about the fact that she is an affirmative action hire herself and wants affirmative action for others? What's that got to do with it? I'll keep reading. Toronto Star columnist Shri Paradkar has won PEN Canada's 2024 Ken Philco Prize for advancing freedom of expression in Canada. Paradkar won the prize after being nominated by other journalists at the Star and elsewhere for her work advocating for and mentoring reporters from marginalized and underrepresented communities. PEN Canada told the Star on Wednesday, quote, her active and committed support of young journalists of color is fundamental to expanding free expression for those who are often excluded from the means to articulate marginalized experience of an unequal society, PEN Canada said in a statement, quoting from the Ken Philco Prize's jury citation. Okay, can you do me a favor and just not call it a free speech prize? You can call it anything else. You can call it a DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Prize. You can call it an affirmative action prize. You can call it, you can phrase it positively, a prize for bringing along minority reporters. Of course, they're not a minority anymore in Toronto. Toronto is now a majority city. The minority in Toronto and Vancouver and soon other cities are white people. So it's a little bit of chutzpah for someone in the year 2024 who just moved here from India to talk about civil rights. There were some civil rights battles. I mean, Canada was always a hospitable place, but it's a bit rich to call yourself a civil rights battler in 2024 for racial equality. We've had that here for quite a while. It's a little bit of stolen valor by Shri Paradkar. Let me read just a little bit more. According to PEN Canada, the prize is awarded to people or organizations who have advanced freedom of expression at the expense of their own safety or reputation. The organization noted that Paradkar has received death threats and harassment due to her work. Is that true? I mean, is it really true? Has Shri Paradkar been beaten up by Antifa or by Hamas thugs? Has she been arrested or jailed by authorities? Or is it just mean tweets? Has she really faced death threats? I'm open to learning the facts about it, but I've never heard that before. Were they serious enough that she reported them to police and police investigated? Or are these just mean tweets? What a laugh. So who exactly is Shri Paradkar? I mean, she's the official racism reporter at the Toronto Star, but that actually means it's not like she's calling out racism. It means that she's in charge of racism, or at least the acceptable racism in 2024, which is basically defacing and defiling anything from Canadian history. She would be the kind of person who would cheer the tearing down of a statue. If you read her own columns and tweets, and I find them too tedious to read other than the headline, it's just a hurricane of anti-white and anti-Canadian rants. Even though, like I say, she came here as a new immigrant herself, but apparently she's an expert on the way this country should be. And over the past year especially, it's basically like reading the news feed of Al Jazeera or some other anti-Semitic state broadcaster. I mean, it's just nuts. I don't know if she actually has a readership. But I thought I would sort of look into the kind of free speech credentials that she has. Starting with, for example, this story, quote, "Giving Maxime Bernier a platform legitimizes his dangerous ideas." So this is her a couple years ago writing about how her own newspaper should never have allowed Maxime Bernier, who is a newsmaker, to meet with their editorial board. Let me say that again. I mean, there are some people in the news who are good people and some people in the news who are bad people. Of course, opinions vary on who is in which category, but all of them are newsworthy. And we don't just report on good news, and we don't just report on people we like. I don't think that Maxime Bernier is evil or a bad person. He just has firmer views. I don't agree with him on all of them, but he's a newsmaker, and he was more of a newsmaker several years ago. And apparently the editorial board of the Toronto Star thought he was a newsmaker enough that they wanted to call him in, not to give him some award, but to ask him questions. And that's what you do in journalism. But Shri Paradkar was outraged by it. Let me excerpt from what she wrote. She said, "Platforming does not defeat ideas. If there is anything U.S. President Donald Trump is shining example of, it is the danger of free speech arguments that validate hate speech and the failure of the concept of sunlight as a great disinfectant of bad ideas. All platforming does is legitimize the speaker. And when that speaker is polished or perceived by the audience as authentic, the platform elevates their stature." Yeah, let's give this woman a free speech award. Can you believe it? PEN Canada is such an embarrassment.